Hi, this is Matt with the College Funding Connection, and welcome back to part 3 of our video series. And the title of our video today is Why Are Private Colleges Sometimes Less Expensive for Families Than Public Colleges? Well, you've heard me say this before if you've seen previous videos, but the real reason is that college planning is not just about saving for college. Although that is incredibly important to start saving as early as you can for your kids for college, it's not the only thing. And once you get into what we call the tactical period, which we'll talk about a little bit, when we're actually looking at colleges and assessing the fees and costs for college, college planning includes saving on the cost of college and understanding that when it comes to college planning, there really is no one-size-fits-all solution. So we're always looking for quick and easy solutions, and we hear all kinds of stuff from family and friends. But just like picking shoes or tailoring clothes, everybody's a little bit different. So it's really about knowing the ins and outs of a very complex topic and how to apply the secrets of college planning and funding to your personal circumstances for your family so that you don't pay any more for college than is really necessary. So the foundation for effective college planning really comes down to the top item here, the expected family contribution, which is also known as the EFC as an abbreviation. But that's the portion of your income and assets that you will be expected to contribute towards college costs. All colleges look at that, and it's always the same. It comes right off of the results of the FAFSA application through the Department of Education. So the real question then is, how can you bring your EFC down to its lowest number? The lower your EFC, the more likely you are as a family and as a student to receive more financial aid. So how is that determined? Well, it's based on the time period from January of your junior year of high school to December of the senior year. And this is also known as the base year. So in other words, what they're looking at is that tax year just preceding the time that you're applying for financial aid, which is in January of the senior year of high school. So if we look at the simple formula below, we see that the financial need, how much aid you're eligible for, is equal to how much the school costs, or the cost of attendance, and by the way, that includes a lot of things, not just tuition, minus your family's expected family contribution, or your EFC. So when we look at all the assets that are looked at by FAFSA, and then you see over on the right here the institutional formula or program that's used by a lot of the private colleges called the CSS profile and registration application. But all these assets checked off on the left will count. If the student owns them, they'll count very heavily. If parents own them, they also count. So everything from checking, savings accounts, CDs, all the way down potentially to business ownership and everything in between. So how you handle the assets that you have and how you position your finances just prior to applying for financial aid can make a big difference in the final outcome for you. So let's talk about private colleges, and especially private colleges, not so much the public institutions, but colleges control over 95% of the money that a student receives each year. So they control whether or not a student receives Stafford loans. They control certainly grant money and or scholarship money that is coming right out of the college's savings accounts or endowments. But roughly $60 billion is there to influence and encourage students that they need. So the money is there. The question is, how do you qualify for that money? So here's a peek at some of the top endowments in the country, and this comes from a NACUBO endowment study. It's the National Association of College and University Business Officers. So these are real numbers. But the largest endowment in the country is with Harvard, and it is now actually in the 30 billions of dollars. That's billions with a B, all the way down to Duke. So all the certainly more elite Ivy League schools or elite private colleges and universities tend to have larger endowments at their disposal. You do see a couple of public schools thrown in there as well. So the money is there in the billions of dollars. So it's not a shortage of money. It's whether or not the colleges determine if your family or your student should receive that. So here's a quick example, a side-by-side comparison of a couple schools. And since I'm in Ohio, I just selected a couple Ohio colleges. But we have Kenyon College, which is a pretty prestigious private college, small private college here in Ohio. And then University of Toledo, which is kind of a typical mid-size public university in Toledo, Ohio. We see the costs are very different. For Kenyon, it's about $56,000 per year, probably a little bit more than that now. And then University of Toledo is right about $22,000. But when we look at this family, you can see that the EFC is pretty much the same for both. You have $7,800 for each one, but the need is much, much larger for Kenyon than for Toledo because the cost of attendance, the sticker price on the school, is a lot higher. So in this case, it may not make a difference that the retail price on the school is more than twice as much for Kenyon. And you can see right below where we see the percentage of aid that the school meets. For Kenyon, they meet about 100%, which is really good. But for Toledo, they only cover about 65%, so only a portion of what the family is actually eligible for. Now, I'm not saying one school is better than the other academically, but we can see certainly from a financial perspective that one school is a lot more generous with financial aid than the other. So if we go all the way down to the bottom of what you actually pay at each school, we can see here that the total bill at Kenyon would probably be about $7,800 as far as an out-of-pocket expense for mom and dad. Whereas for University of Toledo, even though it's less than half the costs, for this family it would actually cost more as an out-of-pocket expense, close to $13,000. Now, there would be some student loans and other things to consider there, so we don't want to be misleading. But for most families, the hardest thing to come up with is that immediate money, the now money that the college is looking for to enroll the student. So how can you estimate aid at specific schools? Well, there are different methods out there. There are some free resources on the internet. They tend to not be very accurate. In most cases, you can work with a college funding advisor or a company. There's various software programs and companies that do a lot of private research to come up with this data for you. So this is one of a sample of a program that we work with called Strategy. But you can see here we have Ashland University, Baldwin-Wallace, College of Worcester, John Carroll, Oberlin. So this is a mixture, or actually in this case it's all private colleges or universities in Ohio. But you can see here if we go all the way to the last column of net cost, there's a pretty big range here. It ranges from about $15,000 or $16,000 as an out-of-pocket expense for this family up to over $23,000 for John Carroll. So both small private colleges, but at one school you'll end up paying probably $7,000 to $8,000 more than you would at the other. So isn't that something that you'd want to know about before you make a commitment to attend that school and make any long-lasting decisions? So we believe that the planning and anticipating those costs as early as you can is very important before your student gets their heart set on any particular school. So big question I get is, should I seek professional guidance? So I've come up with some basic guidelines where if you fall in one or more of these categories, you might want to consider talking to someone, and most reputable firms should provide a free consultation for you with no commitments. But at least you'll have some basic information and you'll have a better understanding of some of the next steps that you should take in the college planning process. So the first one is home ownership. We do know that a lot of private colleges and universities kind of pick on families that have decided to pay their house off early. So if you have a piece of real estate, maybe you inherited it or you paid the mortgage down very early and now your kids are getting ready to go to college, that can actually count against you pretty significantly, and especially with private colleges that use their own institutional calculations. Household income ranging from $60,000 to $200,000, and sometimes even more than that. So you may think that that's too much money to qualify for financial aid, and with the cost of college going up, and especially if you have more than one student or are anticipating more than one student in college at any given time, you may find that you're eligible for a lot of financial aid even though your income may be a little bit higher. So I'd certainly talk to someone and look at some of these estimates to see what your numbers look like. If you have savings in excess of $30,000, you definitely want to talk to someone. Savings is never bad. I'll repeat that. Saving is never bad. However, if you have it in a pocket that the colleges are looking at, you may want to consider making some changes, relatively easy changes to your finances, so that you don't have to legally list that asset on your financial aid application. So that's one thing that you should consider and look at. And then if you have a student with a grade point average of 3.0 or higher, we generally find, and when we talk about financial aid, we're talking about merit-based aid and need-based aid. So we want to look at the merit-based aid opportunities as well. But we do know that they tend to taper off as grade point averages and test scores get lower. So that's just kind of a general guideline to look at. Doesn't mean that some kids below that would not get merit aid, but it's just a general guideline. So if you do fall or find that you meet one or more of these guidelines and you want to consider some professional assistance, at least to discuss options, and again, that initial discussion and consultation should be free for you. So a couple action items. We try to end each video with an action item or two. But first of all, estimate your family's expected family contribution. So if you don't have the means to calculate that and you don't feel like filling out the forms to find out, then I would talk to a qualified advisor that can run some numbers for you and give you some ballpark estimates. And then number two, action item, is try to estimate financial aid packages at schools of interest. So either use your own methods or seek out the assistance of a qualified specialist that has database resources to run estimates for you. So if you are interested in learning more about your family's possibilities for college aid, contact us for a free consultation. Here's our website. You can fill out the Contact Us page there. Give us an idea of what's a good time for you to meet. We're generally available Monday through Friday and even some early evening hours, Eastern time hours. Or give us a call, and here's our toll-free number, 866-305-2321. Again, it's 866-305-2321. That's a toll-free number, and one of our staff members would be available to answer questions for you, and then if necessary we can schedule a time to meet for about a half an hour or so. So stay tuned for our next part in our video series, and this next one will be which colleges will provide the best financial aid packages, especially the free money, and we're always looking for that free scholarship or grant money at the colleges. So until then, best of luck with your college plans. Thank you.